When I thought about what I wanted to do for my Masterworks, my brain immediately went to sugar. I knew I loved the substance, but to be honest, that's kind of where it started and ended. So as I looked more into it, I realized that there's a lot more to it than just a sweet treat once in a while or candy. As I looked into it, I realized how the thing that actually most surprised me was the ethical implications of sugar production over time. And suddenly, this sweet staple was linked to slavery and exploitation in my mind. I also wanted to think about if the production of sugar today is any better than it used to be. And finally, I wanted to look into the health implications, and apparently sugar is not great for you. So, yeah. Hi, my name is Sadie Tokarchuk, and I will be giving you a presentation about the topic of sugar in our society and how it has impacted our society in the past and present, or the dark side of sugar. So, there are many different kinds of sugar, but the one that I'm going to be focusing on mainly today is cane sugar. Year 8000 or 7000 BC, sugar started its revolutionizing journey around the globe. It first appeared in New Guinea, where it was the ideal place to growth. I actually have some sugar cane here to show you, in case you're wondering. Yeah. Okay. So slowly the knowledge of sugar spread across India, the Middle East, and China. And around 350 AD, they started to crystallize sugar by boiling it or drying it in the sun. It created a substance that looked kind of like gravel. Between the 11th and 13th centuries, sort of military pursuits by the European Christians called the Crusades happened. And the aim of these were to recover the Holy Lands from the Muslims, if I believe. Yes. So from this, sugar was brought back to France and the British. It became a rare spice because it was not able to cultivate it in in Europe because it was too cold. So it was very hard to get a hold of, and it was only consumed by nobility. In 1943, when Columbus set out on his second voyage to the New World, or the Americas today, he brought with him sugarcane because he saw the potential for growth. Due to the large amount of space, the natives for labor, and the good climate. Sugar mills started popping up all over the New World, and in those mills were hundreds of thousands of slaves. Between the 16 and 1700s, it was a very important aspect of the European, Asian, African, and American economy. Millions of slaves were taken from Africa, and many of them were overworked to death due to the demand from sugar from Europe. Sugar made the switch from a rare spice to a staple for the middle class and then even to the poor, due to the fact that sugar mills were popping up everywhere in the New World. The way that the Europeans afforded these slaves were because they took the milled sugar, which then was shipped to London, and traded for finished goods, which then was traded for new slaves. This triangle is called the Age of Slavery. If you were an African at this time, life was terrible. And 4 million alone in the British West Indies died due to overworking, some from old age, of course, and from bad living conditions. By the time slavery was abolished by the British Empire in 1838, only 400,000 remained alive. Soon, sugar started to become more mechanized and efficient, which lessened the demand for hard labor. Powered sugar mills started popping up all around the world, with the help of a device called Howard's vacuum pan, which, in case you're wondering, is basically a kettle heated by steam and held under partial vacuum. And under partial vacuum or reduced pressure, water boils at a lower temperature, which resulted in higher amounts of sugar to be made with a lower production cost. This enabled 24/7 working and production. So unfortunately today, the production of sugar is not that much better, although it is obviously not as terrible as the slave trade. I focus most of my research in the Dominican Republic. Some of the problems there are poor working conditions, associated with 12-hour work days and 7-hour work weeks. The safety and health problems are the fact that there's no potable water, there's no minimum work age, signs of forced labor, and illegal overtime done by workers under the threat of deportation. The price that these workers are paid is per ton. So per 1 ton, they would get about 120 pesos, which in Canadian dollars currently is about $8.50, $9. The most productive worker is capable of cutting around, at most 4 tons, like 3 or 4, and that would result in about $35. Just to give you a sense of how little this is, here in BC, the minimum wage is $11.25, which you could basically make the same amount of money that these workers were making by working at McDonald's for 3 hours. So if you put all the information I just told you about the production of sugar aside, is it actually good for you or healthy at all? So according to a quote by the Canadian Health Institution, added sugar includes all caloric sweetening agents added to food, or maple syrup, sugar, corn sweeteners, and honey. The estimates of added sugar intake in Canada are about 51 to 53 grams per person per day, or about 11% of the total daily energy intake. Half of this is fructose, and in this, fructose is in a lot of things such as fruits, honey, flowers, berries, and even root vegetables. Our bodies and cells depend on sugar for energy, so it makes sense that we are naturally drawn to it. However, the amount of sugar consumed by the humans has gone up over time. Sugar can cause more than a few cavities and a little bit of extra unwanted fat. It is actually possibly a toxin for your body and can disrupt our hormonal systems and harm our internal organs. Sugar can be the cause of obesity, diabetes, and cardiovascular disease, as well as other things. The main ways that sugar is consumed today is in the form of either high fructose corn syrup, which is genetically modified in case you're wondering, and table sugar or cane sugar, which is also known as sucrose. Sucrose is made up of 2 monosaccharides, glucose and fructose. As soon as you ingest sucrose, it automatically splits into these 2. Glucose is easily absorbed into our cells and converted to energy, but unfortunately fructose is not so easy. The only way it can be converted to energy is through our liver, and if you consume excessive fructose, it can really wear down your liver and is problematic for your health. When you consume glucose, it helps produce insulin, which then in turn helps produce the hormone leptin, which suppresses hunger. But when you consume fructose, it does not actually help produce insulin, which then leads to excess production of ghrelin, which actually causes you to be more hungry. Fructose is associated with fat production and a fatty liver, which can lead to clogged arteries and type 2 diabetes. Unfortunately, sucrose is contained in almost all of our sweet snacks, desserts, cereals, and drinks like milkshakes, smoothies, hop or soda, Monster, which is energy drink, and even unsweetened fruit juice. So I have some foods over here, and they're all from the Ready Potato, and I want you to guess which ones don't have sugar in them. So I'm going to hold them up, and then you raise your hand on the one you think does not contain added sugar, not sugar, added sugar. There's just one, by the way. The first one is Natura organic soy drink, so like soy milk. Second one is peanut butter. Third one is curry sauce. Then there's salsa. There's flax bread. Yum. There's creamy butternut squash soup. Flax plus hot oatmeal, which sounds delightful. And we have white cheddar Annie's bunnies. Okay, so I'm going to hold them up, and you raise your hand if you think they do not have extra sugar added to them. Okay, this one. Okay, peanut butter. Curry sauce. Salsa. The creamy butternut squash soup. The delicious flax plus oatmeal, and the Annie's crackers. Okay, so the one that actually doesn't contain sugar is actually the rabbit crackers, which doesn't make much sense because your parents tell you not to eat too many of them. Okay. So avoiding sugar is not a universal cure for anything, and you just have to eat healthy and exercise if you want to actually stay healthy. I did that example just because if you're trying to avoid sugar, it is really important to check the labels because anything could have added sugar. Okay. So now, since there's sugar, you might be thinking, why don't I use artificial sweeteners? Because they might be healthier for me. Well, there are studies that can prove sugar substitutes, they're not too good for you, but they're not terrible for you. Some of them can be much sweeter than cane sugar and up to 1,200 times more sweet. So you could be thinking, well, not you thinking, if you see a drink in the store that claims to be sweetened with real sugar, in reality, it is probably also has added sugar substitutes to it because our taste buds have been acquired to such a sweet, like even more than sugar sweet. So one of the most common sugar substitutes are artificial sweeteners. The three most common are saccharin, aspartame, and sucralose. Another one that is really common is high fructose corn syrup, except for I did not do any research on this, so I cannot tell you about the health problems about that. So, have you ever been to a diner or a restaurant, and on the table there's a little container full of yellow, blue, and pink little packets? Have you ever wondered what's in them? Well, in the pink one, or sweet and low, yes, sweet and low, is saccharin. Some of the long-term effects that are possible are epilepsy, brain tumors, diabetes, and Alzheimer's. So as I said before, it's not looking too great. Another reason people may use artificial sweeteners or sugar substitutes is to lose weight, because they have less calories in them. But a study shows that, yes, people do lose calories from consuming it over time because there's less calories in it. But another study shows that if we give ourselves sweet drinks, diet drinks, with no calories, then our body starts to crave real sugar even more. You could be thinking, well, since I saved 100 calories by drinking that diet soda, I might as well have a piece of cake now. So the thinking is, you may think that you saved calories, but in reality, you just gain those calories back by consuming something other, like a sweet treat. So it is actually healthier for you if you eat a few sweet treats instead of artificially sweetened things. This is personally what I think. You can just, I don't know, you can go with them. And just remember, if you sleep for 15 minutes, if you sleep for 13 minutes, you will burn 15 calories, so it's not the end of the world if you just use 1 teaspoon of sugar in your tea instead of a bunch of artificial sweeteners. So I think that I've been focusing my presentation a lot on the negatives of the sugar production and health, most because it's not too healthy for you. So, there's not that many positives. But mainly the places where I focus my research on sugar is the Dominican Republic. And there are also a lot of other places that they produce sugar a lot more ethically. And just so you don't think it's all bad, Rogers Sugar is actually, there are 4 factories here in Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, and Taber, Alberta. I didn't know where that was until I looked it up. And they're run in a much more ethical way according to their website. A quote from the website is, "We work to benefit our customers, our people, communities, and investors. Our team will conduct business ethically and professionally as we strive to have our brands, products, and services recognized as the best. We also, as consumers, have the option of buying fair trade goods." So now, you may be thinking, if sugar is so terrible for you, then why you eat it? Well, Hannah's already gone over it, it's good. But in the end of the day, if you only put 1 teaspoon of fair trade sugar in your tea instead of the whole container, then you'll be fine, as long as you exercise and eat healthy. I would just really like to thank my faculty advisor, Diana Ray, for helping me write my paper and make my presentation, which was probably a really hard job because I procrastinated a lot and didn't get much done. Yeah. And my external advisors, Jack Little and Jen Zidrill, for just helping me in general with insight for my paper. Yeah. So I would like to thank you all for watching my presentation, and I hope you all have a splendid day.
And now, last but not least, I am very pleased to announce that Ms. Sadie Tokarchuk has met all the requirements of the Masterworks.